Good morning. It is 9 a.m. I would like to call the FY25 Taxpayer Millage Public Hearing to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning. We're here today to receive inputs from the community on the tax millage rate proposed for this school year. The superintendent has recommended a millage rate of 20.00 mils, which means that the millage rate will remain the same as last year. We encourage and value public input into the school system budget process. This is the first of 3 millage public hearing where the public will have an opportunity to have a voice. Additional hearings will be this evening at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom and Thursday, July 25th at 6:30 p.m. also here in the boardroom. The administration and board will recommend all the input received at this hearing prior to adopting a millage rate on Thursday, July 25th. At their regular scheduled hearing. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented? All in favor? Any opposed? The agenda is approved 5-0. At this time, I'm turning it over to Dr. Oates for the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. At this time, our CFO will come forth with a presentation with pertinent information pertaining to our revenue.
Okay, I think that's it. Okay, sorry. Good morning, Madam Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Dr. Oates, and remaining board members and community. Today we're here to talk about our millage rate. The FY25 budget has been adopted, and our objective today, is to propose a millage rate that will fund the local revenue portion of this budget. Looking at the 5-year digest on the screen, you can see that the gross digest has significantly increased. Over the past 5 years, the gross digest has doubled from 2.9 billion in 2019 to 5.8 billion in the current year. At the same time, you can also notice that our millage rate, if you scroll a little further down to the net millage, has decreased over the years from 2017 to now. And in 2019 to now. And we've even taken the rollback over that time frame. This slide visually represents the decrease in the millage rate since 2017. Excuse me. RCPS has reduced the millage rate by 5.32 mils, saving taxpayers over $50 million in 6 years. The proposed 20 mil rate for 2024 remains unchanged from 2023, no increase. However, due to an increase in assessed values and the addition of new properties, which is growth, this rate will generate additional revenue for the schools. This graph shows the increase in assessed values. The green portion represents the prior year digest amount, and the yellow is the increase in reassessed values of those properties. It depicts how our home values are growing. So that yellow shows that increased value over the years. Okay, in this slide, in this comparison, you'll see in column 3, that's if we've taken the rollback of 17.523, and the net revenue from that would be $87 million. In column 2, the 2024 digest was used without the reassessed values. So if we take those reassessed values out of that, remove that, and use the 20 mil rate, you'll notice that both columns 2 and 3 show the same net taxes levied, the same revenue. So without the reassessments, our proposed 20 mil rate would generate the same taxes as taking the rollback. Without the reassessments, we would not have to advertise an increase, and we would not be required to hold this meeting today. Also notice that both show a tax increase of 2.6% at the bottom, and the tax levy is slightly more than 2023. This is due to growth or new taxable properties do not impact the rollback. Finally, the last column shows the recommendation for today. The difference between the net taxes levied compared to the rollback rate is the amount of additional taxes levied directly attributable to reassessments. The recommended millage rate is not the reason for the tax increase. The school system does not determine the assessed values of properties. Facts impacting the tax increase to taxpayers. The tax increase to taxpayers is due to assessed values of existing properties increasing by 13.9% over last year. Additionally, the one-time homestead tax relief grant that Governor Brian Kemp approved last year only impacted the taxes of homeowners for the 2023 year. That grant reduced the assessed values of a homestead property by an additional $18,000. The loss of these added exemptions helped to further intensify the perception that taxes were increased. So why can't we go with the rollback millage rate? Well, one, inflation. Inflation has impacted all of us, including the district. Two, the loss of COVID funds that have supplemented our budget over the last few years are no longer available. And three, mandated increases. I can't read the screen. Sorry. So $3.6 million is attributable to an increase of $2,500 per step in the teacher salary schedule. The employer share of health insurance for each covered certified member has gone from $1,580 to $1,760 per member per month, beginning July 1st. This month. That's an increase that makes it $21,120 per person, the employer share of the benefits for our certified people. The employer share of health insurance for covered classified staff members will increase from $1,195 to $1,580 beginning January 2025. And that makes it $17,420 per person. And that's an increase of $2.1 million. $1.1 million of that mandated increase is for teachers' retirement. That percentage is going from 19.98 to 20.78. And this is the portion of the employees' retirement benefits that the district is responsible for paying. So an example of that is the person who makes $50,000, the employer share for the year would be $10,390. And the last mandated increase was a 4.1% increase for nurses and bus drivers, and that equated to $250,000 for a total of $9.7 million in mandated increases. So with these increases, there was no way our budget could remain the same without a huge detriment to the students. All of the costs were mandated by the state. These changes impacted other districts as well. Each of the 12 districts listed on the screen have an increase in their budget. The average increase was 8.5%. Rockdale's increase was 8.24%. Last year, Dr. Oates recommended and the board approved an increase in the senior tax exemption. With this, we have an increase in the exemption amount, which decreases the amount that the district receives from local taxes, but has saved the taxpayers millions of dollars. Inflation, loss of COVID funds, mandated increases, and an increase in property tax exemptions have all contributed to the increased need of the district. As home values rise and our tax digest grows, it has negatively impacted our state funding. As you can see from the pie charts on the graph, in FY 2019, the local portion of our budget was 34.3%. This year, the percentage has increased to 48%, a huge increase over the years, but you see that shift in funding from state to more of a local need of funds. And this last slide just shows where we are as far as our teacher salaries. That's all I have.
That's all, Dr. Oates? Okay. All right. Do we, at this time, we'd like to know if we have anyone that would like to speak to the board. If you have not turned in your cards, please turn them in to Ingrid. But I do have two here and waiting on Ingrid to approach with the other. This is the time when we allow citizens 3 minutes to address the board. Please feel free to submit any documents to the board. We do not normally address your concerns today, but we ask the administration to address your concerns and provide you with an appropriate response. If your topic includes a personnel matter, or if you contend that your legal rights have been violated, we have specific grievance procedures for these matters. We respectfully ask that you refrain from making threats, personal attacks, slanderous remarks, or engaging in behaviors that disrupts the decorum of this meeting. I'd like to welcome to the podium Adeniki Brewington.
Good morning, Dr. Oates and the Rockdale County Board. My name is Dr. Idanike Marie Brewington. My family and I have been residents of Rockdale County since May of 2023. I have an 11th grade daughter who attends Rockdale Magnet. She's been educated in the Rockdale County school system since she was in kindergarten, so around 2012. I understand based on the presentation that there seems to be limitations based on adjustments with the taxes and the millage rate, but I would just like to humbly ask the board to really think through how the money is being spent. There has been a very sad and depressing decline in the Rockdale County school system since my daughter has been in the school system at her elementary school, Peach Chapel, and then at her middle school, Davis Middle School. She now attends Rockdale Magnet, but also takes classes at Rockdale County High School. And I would just like to ask the board to go and look at these schools, talk to the students, talk to the parents, talk to the teachers, go look in the bathrooms, go ask the students what they're learning, look at our AP results. The decline has been tremendous, and if taxpayers are going to have to continue to foot the bill, we expect to see better results. My daughter deserves better. Our students deserve better. This county deserves better. When my husband and I moved into this county in 2003, Rockdale County schools were rated very high. We thought this was a small town community with excellent schools where we could raise a family. And in that time, we're in a sad state of affairs. Look at average SAT scores, ACT scores. Our students cannot compete. And if taxpayers are going to have to continue to foot the bill, we expect to see results. We deserve to see results, and our children deserve better. Thank you.
Ms. Kenya Anderson.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I apologize for coming in late. I had other appointments. Really wish I had seen that presentation. I saw a little bit and was able to catch the previous speaker's announcements as to why the cost had to go up and the millage rate had to go up. But what I wanted to present to the board is that taxpayers here, property owners, have seen a significant increase already in the original millage rate. And then to get more notification that the rate is going up again really does require, for me, a stronger justification as to why and how the current budget cannot meet those needs for the following tax year. I would love to see more details as to how that blends with the current rate that has gone up, what is being used now towards the budget for next year. Is this really necessary? Just more detail would be nice to see. Additionally, I've always wondered why important decisions like this are not made by the voters. Why don't we let the voters put this on the ballot, say in November, after we've been given a lot of detail and sufficient information to make a decision, a fair decision? Let us decide if this increase is necessary or needed. I really appreciated listening to the previous speaker. I don't have children in the school system here, but listening to her say that there are some needs that have not been addressed, so that if you're going to raise the rate, how will that rate affect the needs that are there? All of those need to be fleshed out, in my opinion, a little bit more before this is put into effect. And I'm going to sit down, but I do want to say one more time, can we please think about making a recommendation to have the voters make this decision on the ballot in November?
Ms. Anderson, before you walk away,
Yes.
the presentation that was presented, the report that was presented, it said that we were keeping the millage rate the same. It's not increasing.
Okay, that's good to know.
Thank you.
And so, was there a reason why? Were discussions made before
As to
this?
why we're keeping it the same?
Yes.
Yes, and we'll follow up with you with all that information. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next person is it Sharo Sled? I apologize if I mispronounced your name, but you can correct me when you get to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Charles Sledge. I also live in Rockdale County for the last 13 years. I have a son who's an upcoming senior. He attends Rockdale Magnet, RCA, Clayton State, and of course, Rockdale High School. So want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Some of my arguments against this proposal are the economic burdens on residents. Our community is already facing economic challenges. Many residents are struggling with the rising housing costs of living, including housing, healthcare, and other essential expenses. Increasing taxes will place an additional financial burden on families, many of whom are still recovering from economic impacts of the pandemic, which also could lead to higher rates of financial insecurity and even force some residents to relocate. There's also the issue of efficiency and accountability in spending. Before, again, and someone's already mentioned this, before consider increasing or burdening the citizens, we need to ensure that the current funds are being used efficiently and effectively. It's crucial to conduct a thorough audit of the existing budget to identify any areas of waste or misallocation. By improving fiscal responsibility, we can potentially find the necessary funds within the existing budget. There's also the issue of accountability measures should be strengthened to ensure that every dollar spent on education is used directly to benefit the students and improve educational outcomes. As far as alternative funding sources, there are some ways to find alternative public funds for public schools without increasing taxes or the burden to the residents. For example, seeking grants, public-private partnerships, and fundraising initiatives, encouraging local businesses to invest in our schools through sponsorships and partnerships can also provide additional resources without burdening taxpayers. Exploring cost-saving measures within the school system itself, such as optimizing resource allocation and reducing administrative overhead, can also free up funds for essential needs. There's also the impact on small businesses. Increasing taxes can have a negative impact on local small businesses, which are the backbone of the community. So in conclusion, while the intention to improve our public school system is commendable, we must carefully consider the economic impact on our residents and explore alternative funding sources before we resort to increasing any fees. By ensuring efficient use of existing funds, seeking alternative revenue streams, and protecting our local economy, we can work together to find a solution that benefits everyone. And lastly, I definitely agree with placing this on the ballot, letting the voters decide if this is something that we want to or are able to incur. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Madam Vice Chair, if I might, I certainly want to thank our public for your vigorous participation. This is what democracy looks like when the public comes forth and shares your concerns about decisions that governmental entities are making. And I will say to one of the speakers who you came in after the presentation, know that that presentation is available to be accessed, and I can certainly share it with you as well. And I just want to confirm your email before you get away, because I just want to make sure I have it correct. And then Ms. Sledge, if I could get your contact information so that I could follow up. If you will indulge me for just a moment, I do appreciate the comments, and I'm going to read some information for the benefit of our public. While we have more improvement to make, to be sure, as a school district, the following achievement gains over the last 6 years are noteworthy and affirm our commitment to continuous improvement. We achieved the highest 4-year cohort graduation rate to date for the class of 2023, and it was among the highest graduation rates within metropolitan Atlanta, and it exceeded the state's graduation rate. Additionally, we posted our highest CTAE graduation rate to date at 99.36%. That's the percent of students who graduate within 4 years who have completed at least one career pathway. We also have had the highest advanced academics, fine arts, and world languages graduation rates to date as well, because the state tracks the graduation rate of those specific cohorts, students who complete a fine arts pathway, an advanced academics pathway, a world languages pathway, and the CTAE pathway. With respect to advanced placement, we've accelerated advanced placement achievement with annual increases in the proportion of RCPS AP exam test takers scoring at the highest levels of 3, 4, and 5 to earn college credit. In fact, I'll be sharing with the board later this week our latest AP data, where we saw an additional more students scored at levels 3, 4, and 5 on the 2024 AP exams than the previous year. There were 316 students who scored at 3, 4, or 5 last year. This most current testing cycle, there were 538. Also, all high schools during the past several years have made the AP Honors Schools list. A record number of Governor's Honors Program nominees and semifinalists have been named. We have increased our gifted student eligibility and enrollment, exceeding the state's eligibility target of 10% student enrollment. We've increased achievement on the annual state assessments, both prior to and after the pandemic, resulting in increased CCRPI indicator scores. The state will be releasing our 2024 milestones data on next Friday. It will be unembargoed, and then it'll be made public to the press. There will be a press release that will be submitted. I've already begun previewing that data, although we can't disclose that date at this time until the state lifts the embargo, which will be next Friday. But I'm happy to share with you that there are gains again, particularly at 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade in reading proficiency rates, as well as gains in some critical EOC subject areas. Also would point out that our RCPS 8th graders exceeded both Metro RESA and the state's 2023 Georgia Milestones performance in reading, English, language arts, and Carnegie Unit physical science. That's important because Rockdale County is one of 12 school districts in Metro RESA districts, of course, that include Marietta City Schools of Decatur, Gwinnett County, DeKalb, Cobb, Fulton, and other districts. Also, I'd point out that no schools in Rockdale County Public Schools have been identified and placed on the federally designated list of lowest performing schools during the last 6 years. There are districts that are in our region and in this region in terms of proximately located to Rockdale County that have numerous schools on that list for like this past year, just in 1 year. But over 6 years, 0 schools for Rockdale County Public Schools named to that list. We've increased CTAE career pathway enrollment, course offerings, and pathway completion. One thing I'd like to share is that we've added barbering and cosmetology, as well as HVAC certification programs at Rockdale Career Academy to meet workforce demand. We also have increased the number of students earning a career diploma seal within each graduating class. We've increased our end of pathway assessment pass rate. This past year was the highest in 6 years. And end of pathway assessments are their specific career pathways that have an end of pathway assessment that students have to take when they conclude taking all of the courses in that pathway. We've had our highest pass rate in 6 years, and I'm very proud of that. And also, listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our board's accomplishments. Our Board of Education has been awarded the Leading Edge Award 5 times by the Georgia School Boards Association for various innovations such as career readiness, early learning, public health, and human resources. And also, they have been named on 8 occasions, they've been named an exemplary board. And that's because they have to meet certain training criteria and eligibility to make sure that they're continuously being familiarized with all of the policies of Georgia School Board Association and our own local policies, and that they're following those with fidelity. We secured mobile medical unit and telehealth services for students in partnership with Kids Docs on Wheels, which included COVID-19 testing and vaccinations as part of this partnership during the height of the pandemic, but we continue that partnership. Right now, as we speak, we're partnering with Kids Doc on Wheels, and they're providing the required immunizations that students have to have as they're preparing to return for the 2024-25 school year. And that's just some of the accomplishments. Let me say, I'll readily concede that we have quite a bit more improvement to make, but I feel it's incumbent upon me as superintendent of schools and chief executive officer for Rockdale County Public Schools to make sure that we inform our public of the gains that we're making. We still have work to do in literacy. We have more students coming to us with deficits as they enter in terms of pre-K and kindergarten. We have to work hard to identify those students. The state recently passed legislation that's being more prescriptive about the type of literacy instruction and resources that we're to provide for students. But these are challenges. The fact of the matter is, someone said when they came X number of years ago, the fact of the matter is there have been greater challenges over the years in terms of the needs that students have when they come to us, and we have to meet those needs. I will never demonize or vilify the fact that we're seeing higher proportions of students who have needs early on. Our job as a school district is to take students where they are, meet them where they are, and take them as far as we can take them in terms of achievement. We're going to always have students who are inclined, who are to a high achievement. We want to take those students even higher, which is why it's important to point out that we've continuously increased the number of our students who are scoring at the highest levels on the advanced placement test. There's been no decline in the advanced placement. The data clearly shows that we've increased the proportion of our students who are scoring at 3, 4, and 5. I shared with you 538 students scored at 3, 4, and 5 on this most recent advanced placement exam over 326 some odd students the previous year. So I would say with all due, and also obviously we've decreased our millage rate every fiscal year prior to this year, in which we made the recommendation to hold at 20 for the reasons that our CFO explained in great detail. There are a ton of unfunded mandates that she went over that we don't get funding for, but that we're required under the law to fund, right? That's the retirement system, our portion of retirement for our certified and classified employees, as well as the increased benefits costs, which our CFO talked about. So again, this is a very important conversation for us to have. The goal of these hearings is to give our public all of the information that our CFO shared, so that at least you understand the rationale for our position on the millage rate. And reasonable people can disagree, and we can do that respectfully without being disagreeable, but it's incumbent upon us to make sure that you know the why behind the recommendation that we're making. And I will be following up individually with those individuals who spoke today, which is why I want to get your best contact information before we conclude this millage rate hearing. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Oates. We have probably 30 seconds before the millage rate hearing is concluded. But as I previously stated, we do have a hearing this afternoon, and we have another one on July 25th.
And what's that time, Madam Chairwoman, for this evening?
This evening is 5:30 p.m. and on July 25th, it will be 6:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Oates? I was about to ask him to come back to the stage if I did it, but the time is now 9:30 a.m. Do I hear a motion to conclude the meeting? Is there a second?
Second, Akita Palmer.
A motion to conclude the meeting has been made by Janie and a second by Akita. The meeting is now concluded at 9:30 a.m. with a 5-0 vote. Thank you all for coming.